For centuries, people have been looking for the fountain of youth. What if it existed inside of you? Perineum power is a new somatic practice of body awareness and self-actualization. Moving from the inside out, you can improve your sexuality, the health of your body and emotions, and even your physical alignment in connection with the primary energy pattern of the universe. My life's work in the realm of movement, meditation, and body work was possibly the result of 3 major skeletal injuries that I had throughout my life. And they led me to the healing formulas that I present in this book and to the creation of a new movement technique that I called Somatic Wave, moving from the inside out. I call this my motorcycle growth period because accidents can also be opportunities. I was a passenger on a motorcycle when the tire blew out and we were heading for a rock wall. So the driver dumped the bike, and at 75 miles an hour, I went flying onto the highway, landing on my back, cracked my sacrum, bounced 3 times, each time landing on my head thinking, oh, I'm going to die this time. And I was left lying on the highway with that sacrum cracked, fractured both of my arms, severe neck injuries, skull injuries, concussion. And the doctors couldn't help me with anything except drugs that would mask the symptoms. So I had a master's degree and was very much involved in academia at the time. I was working as an information researcher in fish culture for a foreign aid agency. I had a real fascination with fish and diving in those days. But now I had to start tuning into my body, someplace that I hardly lived at all. I was very much not connected to nature or connected to my body. So I started by studying yoga. Eventually, it took me to Iyengar yoga, which was really helpful to learn about alignment, but it was alignment in a rather static place. I needed to learn alignment while I was moving. Otherwise, I would often get my pelvis just stuck in the most awkward positions and not be able to move. So at that point, I started moving towards Qigong as well, and the energy meridians running through my body. I studied for a long time with Grandmaster Mantak Chia, the Universal Tao, and with his senior instructor in British Columbia, Minka DeVos. And part of that practice was called Healing Love, in which I learned about the importance of the sexual energy for things that are not necessarily sexual, and the importance of the perineum. So when I discovered Somatic Wave, I was a yoga teacher. By now I was teaching mainly the anti-gravity yoga of Vanda Scaravelli and the influences of Risa Caparo and somatic learning. I was also teaching the basic Taoist Qigong practices. And I came across the new anatomy of Dr. Thomas Myers, and that put it all together in a new way. He wrote a manual called Anatomy Trains, and since that initial first edition that I read and studied, he has written 3 more. But it's all with the basic understanding, which is revolutionary, that he realized that instead of describing the physical body in terms of 600 separate muscles, it is actually a lot more useful to describe it in terms of 12 myofascial meridians. My fascia is also connective tissue. So these 12 bands of connective tissue, 6 of them running on the outside of the body and 6 on the inside of the body. And they look somewhat like skin around sausage casings. So the sausage casing surrounds a muscle and also interpenetrates it. If you think of a grapefruit, for example, when you take off the orange-yellow skin, underneath is a thick layer of white, which is like the main connective tissue around the muscle, but also those white filaments interpenetrate the segments of the grapefruit. So that's how our muscles are, encased on the outside with fascia that also interpenetrates it. So each of these 12 bands of connective tissue have an innervation to the brain. That's why you can massage the bottom of your foot with a tennis ball and get relief of tightness in your low back. When I saw this book describing the connective tissue running on the outside and on the inside of the body, I immediately recognized that this is the riverbed of the Qi meridians that I was familiar with from my Qigong studies. And I realized that I could activate movement in this connective tissue by pumping the diaphragms that are in the inside, in the yin meridians, in the yin fascia. And in that way, connect up with the primary energy pattern of the universe, as well as learning how to move myself in a different way. So now the outer layers of my muscles were naturally being elongated as well as strengthened. And I was also creating space in the joints instead of pinching the nerves, instead of grinding away on cartilage. And because of my background in the Healing Love Qigong, the perineum in this lowly part of our body, so maligned and ignored, is the main pump and steering mechanism of this wave of energy that you can ride up through your inner core. So the perineum is the fountain of youth that I refer to, but it is weak in so many people, not only just women, but also men. Although men aren't able to do some of the exercises in this book, they can still do a lot of them. The exercises can be done either with or without the perineum magic wand, but it really helps if you have a vagina in order to use that. So the perineum, when it's weak, is hanging like a hammock, and it's not able to support all of the organs of your abdomen. So this is a case also for men. The perineum should always have a little bit of doming upward in it, not frozen there, but be able to move with your breath. Just take a breath now and see if you can feel any movement in your pelvic floor. But unfortunately, this fountain of youth is weak in so many women because of cultural taboos, because of shaming. Even the medical term for the perineum, pudenda, is a Latin word that means shamed, shameful area. So for centuries, women have been told to be ashamed, not to pay attention to this part of our body. It's been given over to sexual partners so that many women don't even look at it or touch themselves. It suffered a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, even clitoridectomies In a ruling not so long ago made by the US Supreme Court, it was still allowed in the United States, the severing of the clitoris. Also, women who have had difficult childbirth without recuperative exercises end up with a weak perineum for the rest of their life. And constantly, 50% of women experience urinary incontinence. A third of women have pelvic floor disorders. And so instead of having sensory awareness, giving health, good orgasms, and pleasure, perineums have sensory amnesia. Now, when I talk about cultural taboos and shaming, it reminds me of the only sex ed talk I can recall ever having with my mother as a teenager was this brief one when she said, well, you know, they won't buy the cow if the milk is free. It's funny how that has stuck in my head all of these years. But now, decades later, that the milk is free, so many women perhaps have developed lactose intolerance. Or as Tracy Ullman says, as I get older, I just prefer to knit. But let's remember that we are spirits, but we're having an animal experience. We may not be down on 4 legs anymore, or if we ever were. We walk about on 2 legs. But Phyllis Diller said that this is just so that our hands can be free for self-stimulation. How lucky we are that we can at least reach this part of our body, even if we can't scratch that itch on the back. So whether you're planning to or wanting to use your perineum for a more sexual pleasure, you don't have to think about that now, just exercise it. Exercise it to have continence of your bladder and your bowel. Yes, things can fall out of those openings. You need to support your uterus and your intestines, avoiding prolapse. Otherwise, gravity just drags things down. If you exercise your perineum, you'll have a strong first chakra. The first chakra relates to your will to live. When women are depressed, they often lack presence in their first chakra, I've discovered in my work with women at Inner Moves Wellness Center. The first chakra also connects you to your family and your tribe of friends. It's responsible for the health of your kidneys, your bones, your blood. Osteoporosis is more likely in someone who has had to have hysterectomy. The strength of the bones is controlled by the hormones, the sexual hormones. This is also the area to keep your primordial energy pumped up. The basic energy that you were born with can deplete unless you keep pumping with that perineum, with that pelvic floor. And also, I want to tell you about the chemical shift that happens in your brain with orgasms. You can create a euphoria similar to Prozac. When you orgasm, the endothelial lining of your blood vessels creates nitric oxide that boosts the production of serotonin, dopamine, beta endorphins, those neurotransmitters that women otherwise seek in Prozac. Isn't it better to do that yourself, to have that chemical shift in your brain rather than becoming addicted to drugs? As well, if you learn to exercise your perineum, you'll be able to learn to move from your inner core and preserve your joints, to self-align your pelvis, your sacroiliac joints, your lumbar spine, and to create a standing wave of internal support, standing wave that can happen once you engage the somatic wave, energy moving up your inner core all the way from your base up to your head. So in terms of self-alignment and healing of the pelvis, this takes me to tell you about another injury, growth period, that I had about 8 years ago. I was walking on my property, my nature retreat up at Crystal Creek, on a path that I had walked many times when suddenly the ground fell out from underneath my left leg. My left leg plunged into a hole and my pubic bone hit a stump just beneath the earth's surface, separating my pubic bone, separating my leg from my left hip socket, separating my sacroiliac joint that joins the pelvis to the sacrum. X-rays showed that L4, my lumbar vertebra, had been pulled forward 8 millimeters. And I was like a floppy caboose. For half a year, I had to sleep sitting up. I couldn't lie down. But fortunately, I had already started working with the somatic wave. And it was at this point that I invented the Perineum magic wand. It allowed me to have internal feedback to find out which muscles were strong internally. As you recall, I'm talking about moving from the inner core rather than the outer ones. So I found out which muscles are strong internally and which ones still had enough of sensation in their sprung states that I could exercise them and gain greater strength, because the wand told me what I was able to move and what I couldn't, and where I had to focus that contraction more. And with that assistance from the wand, the outer ligaments, cartilage of the joints were able to heal. And I'm able to walk without a limp. And now when I see women with canes or walkers or wheelchairs, I think, wow, I wish that somehow they had this information and the will to help themselves. And this knowledge could help them to regain their mobility. So now I'm going to read to you from my book, Chapter 4, Sexual Pleasure. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? So unfortunately, that's not my quote, that's Maya Angelou that said that. Which I find kind of appropriate, talking about the diamond at the meeting of thighs when we start seeing the pictures of the perineum shaped like a diamond. Remember that as a muscle strengthens, it increases in volume, and its nerve receptors and reflexes also increase. Therefore, the common exercise adage, use it or lose it, refers to sexual muscle function and responsiveness also, as well as enabling women to consciously articulate, strengthen, and energize their entire body. The Perineum magic wand also helps women get in touch with their sexiness and sexual agility. The loop of the wand feels surprisingly similar to a human hand or penis in its softness and strength, especially if it is warmed in water or against the skin before use. Why use the wand to exercise? Women become more orgasmic and deepen their orgasms by strengthening the entire diamond shape of their perineum and by learning to isolate the components of their internal musculature. A healthy muscle is able to relax as well as contract. Similarly, a healthy perineum is able to relax and avoid hypertension, avoiding spasm or excessive pain during intercourse. The wand can also be used during menstruation to relieve excessive cramping. With the wand, women can get to know their G-spot. The soft loop at one end of the wand can hook around the G-spot, while the loose ends of the tubing rub and stimulate the clitoris, whose nerves are connected to the G-spot. To locate the G-spot, and you're welcome to do this right now in the privacy of your home if you like, feel for the wrinkly texture of skin on the underside of the camel hump of your pubic bone when you place a finger inside your vagina. With stimulation of the clitoris, this area of the G-spot inside the vagina swells and becomes more deliciously sensitive to touch, leading to female ejaculation and very intense, breathtaking orgasm. Sex and connection with a partner become more satisfying as a woman learns what gives her own self-pleasure. She also becomes more self-confident and is able to relax and better tune into her partner. All 4 types of orgasm can be cultivated: clitoral, vaginal, G-spot, and cervical. And so the Perineum magic wand, besides it's just being used for internal exercise, can also provide a very satisfying solo sexual experience. You may remember in centuries past, it was called hysteria. Women would go to a doctor to have an orgasm induced. If you're feeling hysterical, now you know what to do. By learning to bring herself to orgasm, a woman's deep tensions can be released and better sleep can be enjoyed. However, the wand can also be a tool for spiritual transformation. It all depends on what your intention is when using it, for as the saying goes, sex is all in your head. So I want to stress that my book is able to be engaged at 3 levels. Physical, just simple exercises to support your bladder, increase sexual pleasure if you so desire, especially with the Perineum magic wand that I teach you how to make. Very easy. Cost you about $3 instead of expensive sex toys or appointments with biofeedback machines. You'll be able to tell on your own what part is working, what isn't. You can also take it to an energetic level if you consciously want to work with energy and with the chi meridians, because they carry healing energy to different physical issues throughout your body. That's how I was able to heal 4 torn tendons in my left shoulder about 3 years ago when I tripped over suitcases in a crowded airport under construction, tore all 4 tendons. Orthopedic surgeon told me I needed 2 surgeries over 3 years in order to repair them. I started using this practice again with the perineum circulating energy through the 12 meridian cycle of my body, and I could see where the chi, instead of flowing as a golden pathway, there would be a dark break. And so my work over those months was to keep the light going through that dark pathway, keep it going through until it finally connected with the other end. And along with physical therapy, I regained use of my left arm. With a second set of MRIs that showed the healing, I went to the surgeon. She couldn't understand it. Her only response was, it must have been a mistake in the MRIs, but I know that wasn't the case. So you can see how valuable this knowledge can be to you if you pursue it at the energetic level. However, you can also go to the emotional and the spiritual level by embodying love and light. You can experience an inner alchemy, a oneness with God, or what David Bohm, the quantum philosopher and physicist, called the implicate order that we all interact with. So if you do choose to progress into the energetics level of your perineum power, you'll be able to increase all of the physical benefits, including sexual pleasure and orgasmic response, as you develop the opposing force and rebound with your perineum. You'll have more chi circulation to your organs, increasing your youthfulness. I don't believe in age, I believe in energy. And you'll also be able to magnify the benefits to your joints, to your alignment, and to the brain. So important to be able to carry your spinal fluid up to your brain for nourishment. So I've been mentioning somatic wave. What is the soma? It might be a word that's not familiar to you. Soma differs from body. Body is a term for your body as a pawn, doing things, moving it around to imitate what the teacher is doing or a picture that you see in a book. Whereas soma is about self-sensing from within, proprioception, moving what you feel inside, sensory awareness. And the 6 principles of the somatic wave, which I'll go through one by one in a moment: rebound, yang yin, feet press points, perineum, tensegrity, and idiokinesis. The first being rebound. I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, but we used to have fun pushing our arm against a wall, pushing for about 2 minutes, and then when we stepped away, the arm would just magically float up into the air. It was mind-blowing. We kept pushing different parts of ourselves against the wall, hoping that we would levitate, but that didn't work as well as it did just with the arm. So that's an example of opposing force and rebound. Opposing force is the basic blueprint of life energy. For example, these 2 groups of magnets were joined plus to minus, but if you try to bring plus to plus, there's an opposing force that creates a wave of energy between them. This is also what happens in an atom between the anion and the cation. Similarly, if you have a blocked acupressure point and you insert a needle into it. The top and the bottom start to spin in opposite directions, causing energy to flow once again through the chi meridian. Now in our bodies, that opposing force is created by the yang on the outside and the yin on the inside. Yang active, yin passive. Also used sometimes terms masculine, feminine, but it's not a matter of sexual orientation that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about active and passive. Energy coming down from the sky, from the universe, and then coming up from the earth as being yin. So I'd like you to just take your hands right now and run your hands down what you see here, down the outer layer of your body, down the front line. This is what's known as the stomach meridian also, that goes through the front line of connective tissue. Starts right underneath your eye socket, goes under your chin, down the side of your neck, goes through the nipples, goes through the stomach, through the groin, down the front of your thigh, kneecap, to the middle of the front of your ankle, flows off the second toe, and then rebounds back up from the earth as far as you can follow this line from the ball of your foot, up the inner ankle, calf, knee, thigh, through the front triangle of your perineum. That's the area where the vagina is, or the testicles. By the way, men can lift the testicles just the way we can lift the vagina with these exercises. Master Montecchia called it lifting the golden yo-yos. So you can know the progress of the exercise of your perineum as a man as well. I know there are men listening here today. So the yin is going through the inner core, through the sea of energy in your belly, through your stomach once more. And it actually goes to your heart at this point. Continues down the arm, but I won't take you there. But basically these 12 meridians all connect up. It's an ongoing circuit through your whole body. So right now, I'd like to lead you in a little wave. So run your hands down the front of your body, down to your feet, push into the ground. Imagine that you could push down a body length into the ground, and as you're pushing down, pull up your perineum. Push down with the front of your feet, the back of your feet, as you exhale and pull up the perineum. And you may feel the beginning of that wave just with doing that. You'll find that the press points of your feet take on a new importance. The big ball of the foot grounding the front line, the center of the heel grounding the back line, the small ball of the foot grounding the lateral line of your body. And pumping the energy up through your perineum, through the 6 sectors of the perineum. So RFPQ means right front perineum quadrant, LFPQ, left front perineum quadrant. This is the area that was helping you pull up after you stroked the yang line down, pulling up this front triangle. And you start to learn, is it the left side or is it the right side that's weak? Also, the back body. The back chi meridians and myofascial meridians refer to the bladder On the yang level, on the yin level, the kidneys, which joins to the pericardium, circulation sex. The transverse perineals that go from sit bone to sit bone, they're what moves the gallbladder meridian down the outside, the liver meridian up the inside, connecting to your lung meridians. So here's a model of the female perineum. You can see that triangle of the front, the transverse going from sit bone to sit bone, and the triangle of the back sectors. So all of those sectors are part of this core of diaphragms that, as well as pressing down and pumping up, you take the energy all the way up through the perineum, the peritoneum that's on the inside of your pelvic bones, the diaphragm under your lungs, and the pleural sheath that continues up the inside of your rib cage. And as you exhale, the diaphragm pushes the energy out the arms as well as up into your head at your throat, up into your brain, and the tentorium separates it into left and right brain hemispheres. So you actually get to feel the plates of your skull starting to move. And so here's some pictures from Dr. Thomas Meyer's Anatomy Trains book. By the way, in his later editions, he made that realization himself. He connected the fascia to the chi meridians as well. So here you see, this is the back line through which the bladder line of chi runs. This is an actual photograph of the fascia from a dissection being overlaid over a skeleton. And here is a drawing of the yin meridians that run through the core. You'll notice that they start right at the arches of the feet. So your core starts in your feet, moves up through the inner legs, inner thigh muscles, through the perineum, continues up the peritoneum, inside your ribs, inside your skull, to the dural sheath around your brain. So that when you engage all of these principles, opposing force, yang and yin, feet, perineum, you come to the fifth principle of somatic wave, which is tensegrity. A balanced opposition of the yang on the outside and the yin lines on the inside creates tensegrity within your body. This was a term that was first coined by Buckminster Fuller when he described his creation of the geodesic dome, in which there was no one point of tension because it was evenly distributed, creating greater strength and self-support than any other structure could, and creating the geometric pattern that's known as the torus. And the toroidal energy sphere is the primary energy pattern of the universe. You see it in atoms, you see it in the earth, you see it in galaxies. And in this artistic representation by Alex Gray, he's superimposed the torus of a human body over the torus of the earth's field. And you can see how energy moving into one point with opposing force creates an energy wave, which then can become a toroidal sphere. Therefore, when you activate your perineum in this way, you can increase your lung capacity, can activate the sea of energy in your abdomen, the flow of chi to your organs, glands, and muscles, taking cerebral spinal fluid up to your brain and nourishing it. Have a stronger orgasm. But what if your perineum has sensory amnesia? You can start awakening at sensory awareness with your breath in the wand. The breath is the place to start. As my acupressure teacher, Michael Reed Gach, says, he has a recommendation of the book on the back cover of my book. He says, breathe as deeply as you want to heal, and be aware that you are breathing life force. I take you through 3 breathing stages in the book to help you develop that sensory awareness with your breath. And the final principle of somatic wave is ideokinesis. A visualized image moves your body. You don't have to actually use physical force of pushing down with your feet a body length in order to get that rebound up. And the breath becomes useful to help you move the visualization of energy through the energy channels. So I'd like to lead you through an ideokinesis. Close your eyes and visualize while I read. Imagine that you are peacefully floating on your back on the surface of a warm sea. Your feet are pointed toward the shore and your head points toward the ocean depths. You are lying close to shore at a place where the incoming water hits a sandbar on the ocean floor and causes waves to crest. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, a cresting wave washes over the top of the front of your body, and your long extending exhale follows the ocean wave, moving over your yang front line toward the sand of the seashore. The edge of this wave hits the shore and sends a backwash, pulling back toward the ocean depths, right under the cresting wave where you lie. Feel the tug of the backwash moving up through the yin of your inner core diaphragms, at the same time as the wave is washing over the surface of your body and hitting the shore. The ocean water can move in 2 directions at the same time. Just like energy can move in 2 directions at the same time within your body, and you can surf this wave into movement. As you go further into the book, you will also be able to engage at the level of emotions and spirit. I realize that people often connect to a spiritual path. It really depends on their basic emotional makeup. Determines what they're attracted to. However, many spiritual teachers have said that love is the creative force of the universe. So as you start to breathe love with the life force that comes with your breath and embody an actual physical sensation to spread that love through your body as you breathe, it can also create a lot of healing. Just imagine that this breath now, you're breathing love, and you feel that sensation of love and trust moving through you, filling you. The Taoists breathe healing love into their organs and glands with the inner smile, and I tell you about doing that within the book as well. Back to my book. The way we feel emotionally creates a change in our DNA and our inner alchemy. The new research on epigenetics has taught us that the way we feel and think about ourselves can cause changes at the level of our DNA molecules. The DNA in every cell of your body is responding to the feelings of your thoughts and words. It is not the thought itself that is powerful, nor is it the action. Rather, it is the magnetic field that is generated by your feeling body while thinking or doing. You can refer to David Hawkins, his amazing book, Power versus Force, where he describes this more. So intention and emotion are the yang and yin of manifestation. Exhaling love and gratitude into the world through the core of your inner being magnetizes a cascade of grace that can fill your inhales and fulfill your intentions. Honoring the female principle in your own perineum can bring healing to the effects of cultural abuse that have been passed down from many generations in the collective unconscious. You may even find them starting to arise during your practice. I know it surprised me when it did. The ancients in every part of the world practiced a secret internal alchemy that energized the body with the sexual energy of the perineum, magnetized the central energy channel, and connected with the higher self, and then brought this energy back down and inside in order to become integrated and whole. These practices increased personal energy, spiritual advancement, and the ability to manifest intention. Swiss psychologist Carl Jung recognized ancient alchemical symbols that his patients reported to him in their dreams. Turning lead into gold is actually an analogy for the advance of human consciousness. Carl Jung believed that inner alchemy is the natural evolution that humans are wired for. And you can catalyze this evolutionary journey with your perineum in 3 steps. Physical, developing your primordial physical energy. Energetic, supercharging your energy field. Spiritual, embodying emotions of love and gratitude. Connecting your spirit in that way to Great Spirit, to God, to the implicate order, whatever that is for you, and experiencing oneness. Thank you.